So this is a slightly awkward talk show style panel, isn't it, really?
Yes.
Because I don't know about you, but my feet are getting a little bit sore. I'm wondering, do you mind if I go and sit down? Is that okay?
No, we can sit down.
Do you think we should?
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay.
It just feels a little, you know,
Yeah.
non-conversational standing over at the lectern, so...
Okay,
all right.
Fine. We have 4 people here, 4 young people, leaders that have been working extremely actively as activists, pushing different kinds of agendas, different kinds of issues. And I'd like to start with you, Michael. You are originally from, or not originally, you are from Nigeria, but you're living today in the US. And you've been working a lot on issues that relates to non-discrimination of people that are attracted by same sex. You're working a lot on MSM issues. Tell us a little bit about the work. I heard you already here asking a question about the situation of engaging young people in Nigeria. And I understood that you might have different views here in terms of what is possible and what is not possible.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. My name is Michael Igodaro. I will say good work to the Youth Force. Melbourne Youth Force, I'm very proud that we're able to give out that statement. I'm not really feeling okay with this because I feel that, again, young MSMs are left out of the perspective when it comes to discussing about youth issues. And again, it just happened here also again. Anytime I go to conferences, this always happens. Young MSMs around the world, young MSMs living with HIV, are not always on the table discussing issues that regard young people. I have been working on young issues around the world, especially regarding young MSM living with HIV in Nigeria, and we all know what's going on around the laws in Nigeria, Uganda, and other African countries, and other 70 countries around the world where they have laws that discriminate against young people. Like Mark just said, you know, we need proper involvement of young people, not just young people, key affected young people, young transgenders, young MSMs, young drug users. They need to be at the table discussing issues that affect them. But most of the times, they are left out of the main issues, and their issues are not reflected. When I look at the Youth Melbourne Declaration, I don't see much of me involving in that. I don't see much of young MSMs. What we need involving in that. And that's an issue for us. That's a big issue.
And why do you see that that is not happening?
Well, I can't explain it because when it comes to that declaration, whatever they have there, excellent things. But things that affect young MSM who live with HIV in access to proper health educations. Yes, they want health education in schools, but young MSMs don't get the proper education they need. There are educations around health educations, but when it comes to how they, for instance, when I was living in Nigeria as a young person, I knew about HIV, but I didn't know that I could get HIV as a young MSM in Nigeria. Because the education I have was that you could get HIV through heterosexual sex, through needle sharing, through blood transmission, but I never knew that I could get HIV through anal sex. So how do we get this education down to young MSMs in those countries that the laws prevent them from getting this information? How do we begin to involve young people, young MSMs especially, those ones living with HIV in the countries that they are not involved? I would have loved the UN, Mr. UN to answer my question. I'm really sad he wasn't able to answer my question because I want to know how the Nigerian government are involving young people. Yes, we're involving young people. How are we involving young key populations? How are we involving young MSMs? How are we involving young sex workers? How are we involving young people generally, you know?
But I would imagine that you have some of the answer how we should be doing that.
Yes, but we are not.
So what are some of the answers in terms of how we should be doing it?
To come to the table.
Yeah.
Our voices are not. We feel we are not as important as other young people should be. As other young people should be. Like I said again, I don't see much of young MSMs in the Melbourne Youth Declaration. I don't see much of us in that, and that's a problem. We need more involvement. We need our voice to be heard. We need to be brought to the table. We need issues that affect to be shared. We need to talk about issues that specifically affect us, but we are not being given the chance, the opportunity to share that.
And so I'm just going to push that a little bit further and say I completely respect what you're saying, and I think that there are many key affected populations that are silenced because they are underrepresented. But right now, right today, right in this moment, you are on this stage and you've got the microphone in your hand. So I want to empower you to tell this audience not just what should happen, but what you need to happen. What is it? Tell us. We're listening.
What we need to happen is, like my friend said, to break that door. The door needs to be broken. We need to get in.
When you get in, what are you going to say?
We need to ask for access to healthcare educations. We need to ask for treatment. We need to ask for care and support for young MSMs. That is what we need. There are MSMs, like I was speaking yesterday about a friend of mine who died of HIV 3 weeks ago. This is a young person from Nigeria who died of HIV in 2014 just because he could not go to healthcare centers to access healthcare centers because of fear of discrimination. Because if he goes to a doctor, is that the doctor will ask him, you know, what's your sexual orientation or sometime, and when he say that, the law that prevents the doctor from even providing sex for him, he might go to jail for 10 years, and the MSM will go to jail for 14 years, with the laws in Nigeria. If it is Uganda, both of them will go to jail for life. Those are laws that prevent MSMs from accessing healthcare services. How are we able to share that with our government officials if we're not given the chance to share that information with them?
And Michael, you also, thank you. And you also mentioned a very important point earlier, and I think that this is true in every country around the world. It's a gap everywhere, and that is sexuality education that is not inclusive. That is not inclusive of those that are same-sex attracted and gender diverse, and we absolutely have to do something about that. And I will say that as a passionate supporter of that. I run an NGO that is committed to delivering youth-led comprehensive sexuality education. And so what I would like to ask you is, do you think that the solution lies in targeted education programs that specifically target young people who are same-sex attracted and gender diverse? Or does the solution lie in actually making the sexual health education programs inclusive of all of that, so that you're not isolating off, different issues? Which way do you think is the solution?
I think both ways are good ways, but in the first way, when you say specific messaging, is very important, because when you share the same message to everyone, there might be discrimination in regards to homophobic tendency in regards to answer the kind of question you want to ask in the movement. Maybe if you have a teacher talking about sexual education in a class, which is inclusive of sexual orientation and gender identity, a young MSM in that class might not feel free to express him or herself, to say this, I'm an MSM, I want this question. But if it's a specific space for just key affected population, young MSMs, teaching about sexual orientation issues, they may feel free to answer the question they want to ask, but if it's generalized, they might not be able to say what they want to say.
Should we move on a little bit to Svastika? I have difficulties always pronouncing names, coming not from an English-speaking country, but you've been working a lot on transgender people. Experience from Nepal. I mean, what can you share with us in terms of how can we better understand transgender people, ensuring that we are also responding to their specific needs, respecting them, etc.? I mean, what's your experience?
Well, I'll be talking all about Nepal, not all over the region first. The issues all around the Nepal is like, first, they have to understand about transgender, what transgender are. Because people back there in Nepal, they really don't understand what transgender are. Because just because of not understanding the transgender issue, people had been discriminating and stigmatizing people. So I think it's all come in that Melbourne Youth Force policy. Just a few minutes before, we have already been discussed everything. We need to be respected. We need to be inclusive in every policy. We need to be educated. We need to be inclusive in everything, even in making policy things. Like even we are, though we are in youth policy in Nepal, we have been still outside the wall. We really need to get into that. We haven't also get our legs inside the world. We're still outside that. Maxi is still laughing at that, but it's a fact that we are there, but still people don't understand about us. We need to, our issues should be there in the primary or higher or any kind of university level. Then it will be more easier to people to understand about our issue. Unless if you want to understand our issue, then I don't think there will be anything to work. First, you need to understand the issue, what it is all about. Then we can work.
Any advice in terms of how we can do that?
Well, I said we need to do it. We need to address all the issues to everywhere. First, we need to address our transgender issues to the grassroots level. We should make them aware about what transgender are or what transgender issues are. Then it will be more easier to make other things work.
Thank you. Laura, can I come back to you? Because, I mean, this is an issue that is discussed now very much politically at the UN level around LGBT people's rights and issues. extremely difficult, extremely politically sensitive. I mean, I'm coming from a country where we have the opposite situation. There is no political party that is not making a really strong point that this is top priority of my party when we go into election now. So we have done that journey, but many other countries have not. How do you see, what is sort of from a strategic point of view, how can you ensure that we are making progress, respecting everyone, nevertheless, regardless of sexual orientation?
I think that a really great way to do it, particularly for young people, is through this idea of peer education. And so as young people, I think that we learn best when we're talking to other young people who we can really relate to. And when we're talking to them really informally, and it's about sharing stories and experiences. And I think that when it comes to these really politically sensitive issues, yes, obviously we want to be working from the top down, but we also want to be working from the bottom up. And when I say working from the bottom up, what I mean is more forums like this, where we have these incredibly passionate young people sharing their personal stories and their experiences. Because you can't fight with someone's personal story about the humiliation and the embarrassment that they've had to go through. And that's how we build bridges, and that's how we build partnerships. And that's how the community of young people as a whole shows adults and other people globally that respect is important, inclusiveness is important, and that, I believe, will filter up to the top levels of our leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. You've touched on, again, an issue I'm very passionate about, and that is youth-led initiatives. And I'm really pleased to hear you say, and it actually also makes me think of what Michael's last comment was as well. It's almost like when we do things in balance, we actually get results. I think if we invest too much in one end, so it's not about the us and them game, it's not about fixing it at the top level or, you know, only grassroots mobilisation. It's about doing it at every level, and I think if we do that and those things come together, we get real progress. I want to involve our other two wonderful panellists that are up here today, and thank you for being here. And Violet, I know that you're a very passionate activist and advocate for the rights of young women and girls, and I would like you to share with us a little bit about the work that you do in that space.
We do most about young women and girls. We look on the challenges which young women and girls are facing. Like in my country, there are so many challenges which we as young women face, because there is a denial of some youth services. Sometimes we don't have that access, like as a young woman, because every time you go to have a family planning method, I can say there at the healthy center, they sometimes don't allow you to. They are not friendly to us, and I also deal sometimes with some of our cultural practices. I can say they do lead to some of, like, they are a burden to us as a young woman and a girl, because some cultural practices, I can say, they influence some women to have early pregnancies, and when you have early pregnancy, some of the girls, they drop out from school. I am the living example who drop out of school because of a pregnancy. I am a mother of I've got a son. So I drop out because of our cultural practices which we do. So when we look at such things which we as young women face, I think it's high time we need to stand up. They need to stop. We need to do something for to stop that. So some some things which we I can say I beg some like organizations to help us, like to stop this, or I think they should support more like on vocation training, because not everyone can be educated, and not everyone is interested with school when you drop out. I didn't say that I'm not interested, but when you train those girls like about counseling or on anything about vocation, I think it's good because they'll be independent. They'll not depend on someone. So I think, to me, it's one of the greatest ideas.
Can I ask you a question? The regional director for UNAIDS, she wrote to me I think it's a year ago, she had been in Malawi and speaking about the age of marriage for both boys and girls, but especially for girls, that was going to increase to be going up from 16 to 21 years. Has that actually happened? Do you think it is possible that will happen in Malawi? And do you think that's...
Okay, that's a kind of a tricky question. All right, but I don't think it's going to happen because, you know, I can say not everyone has got that access to that type of information. No. So I don't think it can happen. I'm sorry to say that.
Because she had met with a lot of local leaders, not just the politicians, not just the people in the capital, but local leaders, chiefs, and come to what she said, together with the president, an agreement that one would increase the age of marriage. But I don't know whether it's happening, but I mean, obviously you are a bit skeptical.
Of course, I can say in some parts it is happening, but okay, but the parts whereby they are practicing that, like the age, actually it's 18. Oh. Yeah, the age is 18 to 21, I think. Yeah, that's when you are able to get married, I think. So yeah, you start 18. But when you come to the rural areas, you can find a family at 15, 14, yeah. So I don't think it's happening all over. And there are many people living in the rural areas than the urban areas. Yeah.
Thank you, Vala. I now want to make sure that we get our fourth panellist up here involved in the conversation, and I introduce Ayu, who, for anybody that was with us at the opening ceremony, I'm sure that you were moved the way everybody in that room was moved. You gave the most powerful and heartfelt speech to the AIDS 2014 community. Thank you for doing that. Thank you again for doing that.
Thank you very much.
Ayu, could you share with us a little bit of your own story and what has made you so passionate about working in this space?
Well, if I'm not living with HIV, maybe I will close my eyes forever for these issues, and I will be like a blind people who don't care for anything. So maybe God give me the best way to make a better living for myself. So what makes me finally work and passionate in these issues of HIV and AIDS and women and young people it's because at first I know I feel that I need that support. So I think after I encourage myself, I already strong, I should give it back to the people who need that. I should give more support to people. I should give more power to people. And then I also see that there's still a lot of challenge, barriers in our countries. Like we see that two people sit there is from the UNAIDS and from the Global Fund. I really want to make my president sit down there because they are the one who actually, should open the door for us. We cannot depend on donors. We cannot depend on UNAIDS. The country have the responsibilities to do the work. And I know that young people have the power to do that. In Indonesia, we are proof that the engagement between young people and the government is very, very work. Even it's still not very perfect because there's still many other ministers who, I don't know why they cannot have a specific program on young and HIV. But HIV cannot stand alone by the Ministry of Health. So the passion is about how we can make everything better.
So I feel like, okay, myself is much better now after I meet more people, after I learn with more people who know more. So how can I give it back to the world so the world can also be like me, like Violet, like the other one who stand here and give the positive energy.
You have right now your minister as the chairperson of the Global Fund. Yeah. Have you had the opportunity to speak to her?
Yeah, well, we are very close actually. All the communities in Indonesia are very close with the minister. But like I said, the Ministry of Health very focused and have a passion on that. But we need other minister, you know, like when we pushing the education system, the Ministry of Health cannot work in that place. We need the Ministry of Education. When we talk about the SRHR that we want to put at the education, when the Ministry of Education say yes, Ministry of Religious maybe say, oh no, don't talk about sex in school. So we cannot be like only 1 or 2 or 3 ministers. All the system in the government, in the country should be work together, hand in hand, and also with the civil society.
We need to change our... We need to change our perspectives on thinking healthcare to thinking health instead. And health is not only about the Minister of Health, of course. It's about other ministries, other sectors as well.